stickers on? Are we putting these on? Do we put them on for real? That was a picture of our feet.
Hi, everybody. If you could please take your seats. If there's people still in the entrance, that would be great. We're about ready to start. And I think we are. I'm going to stand here with these ladies. My name is Natalie Hurdy, and the lovely ladies are Sonia, Amy, and Betty. I'm Natalie, and we are the CSCC, the Community School Connection Committee. We're thinking of rebranding because it's a mouthful. Anyhow, thank you for coming. And tonight's Meet the Candidates and question and answers. So without further ado, we've got a lot of people to ask questions to. I'm going to pass this over to John Reagan, our town moderator, who has graciously accepted to do this evening. Thank you, John.
Hello, good evening. Welcome to tonight's Candidates Night. Many thanks to our sponsors for having this important event. First, let's start by saying Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. So we have a great opportunity tonight to learn more about these people, our candidates. I'm looking for very specific, informative, and perhaps even pointed questions tonight, resulting in debate that will help us all form an educated opinion of the candidates that you will see on the ballot on Election Day. Election Day is on March 12th. We open at 7 and we close at 7 p.m. If you're running at 7 p.m., we'll stay open. If there's nobody in the parking lot at 7 p.m., we close. So first I'd like to introduce the candidates tonight. As I call your name, maybe you could just stand up and wave. We'll get into intros a little later on. So for the Board of Selectmen position, Mr. John Brunel. We have Kerry Douglas. We have F. Robert Leary. We have Kevin Lynch. Andrew Santon. For Budget Committee, we have Jennifer Bork. Andrew Cutter. William G. Hayes. And for School Board, we have Brian Bork. We have Kerry Douglas, overachiever, and Christina Harrison, sorry. Okay. So the candidate night agenda goes like this, and if you were here last time, it's the same script. I'll ask each candidate to come up and say hello, to note for which office they're running. Candidates are welcome to provide a brief personal background, their reason for seeking public office, and what they hope to accomplish if elected to office. Candidates will have roughly 4 minutes each to complete their introductions. We have a gentleman in front here who will be offering some time guidance, 30 seconds stop type indicators to let us know that you're approaching your end point. There won't be any hooks. If we slide over, it's okay, but no rambling discussions, if you would. After your introductions, we'll break for approximately 10 minutes, give or take, to prepare audience questions. There are pieces of paper cards up in front. We ask that you write your questions on the cards, submit them back into the basket, and we'll organize them, and then I'll assemble them and ask them to the candidates up front. A note about candidate questions. Residents are welcome either to come to the microphone to ask a question or to use the writing material that we've provided. Please try to write clearly if you do write. Please try to keep questions focused on current issues. No personal gripes or attacks will be allowed. Questions may be addressed to a specific person or a group of candidates, and I'll do my best to direct it properly. The candidate who is asked a question will have or decides they want to respond to it, will have approximately 3 minutes to respond, give or take. All other candidates running for that office will be allowed approximately 3 minutes to respond. I'll do my best to randomly select the order of speakers if it's not directly specific to a particular candidate, when they're not targeted to a single candidate. Any questions, suggestions, comments, points of interest, complaints, calming, reassuring prose before we begin? None? Okay. So, if I could ask the candidates to say hello, note your office for which you're running, provide a bit of personal background, talk about what you hope to achieve. So, where'd my list go? It's gone. Mr. Brunel, would you like to speak first? Sure you would.
Stop laughing, Kevin.
Microphone, John. Fix it. There you go. Uh-oh. Become shorter. Up. We're not working. Here, John.
Now I can walk. That's a problem. All right. Sorry. So you didn't get my joke in the beginning. Who cares? For those folks who don't know who I am John Brunel. I've been on the Board of Selectmen for the last 9 years. I've been living in town for 20 years with my wife, my 4 children, and now 3 grandchildren. I got interested in volunteering for the town in about 2001, shortly after I got in town, after being encouraged by many people who are actually in the room today too. I started my volunteering as a member of the zoning board for several years, and then I moved on, started getting a little more interested in what was going on in the Board of Selectmen, started attending meetings and just kind of watching, and didn't do anything else but watch for several years. In the room. TV wasn't all that great because my wife didn't want me in the room while I was at home, so I had to go out to the meeting. In 2007, I served as the chair for the Solid Waste Committee, which was the committee that was put together by the Board of Selectmen to convert from when we incinerated to what we have today as a recycling center. In 2010, after being encouraged by Pat Hewitt and many other folks to run, I decided to run. Actually, I'll take a step back. 2009, I think, is I ran, and Pat Hewitt came back, so I didn't win. In 2010, after her encouragement again, I ran. I was successful and joined the board. During the last 9 years, I've served as the chair several years. I'm current vice chair, and I've been vice chair for many years. But I've also played an important role of liaison to the budget committee for several years, rec commission, and so on. So, why did I join? Well, I did this because I wanted to make something better, right? I wanted to give back to the community because that's what I think we all should do, right? We live in a beautiful town, and giving back is what we can do. And it takes time, and it does take a lot of time. As I said, I wanted to make a difference. I wanted to make things better. And one of the reasons why I ran was I wanted to see, we've used the word transparency a lot lately. Transparency. And one of the projects I worked on was bringing us to the network. Right, out to the internet, on Facebook and social media and all that. And that's a lot of things that we've been doing and continue to make improvements in that. I was the creator of the first website for the town, and the generation's out there now. So what do I want to continue doing? I don't think I'm done. There's a lot of things that we still have ahead of us. We have a lot of challenges. We spent the last 9 years recovering from a corrupt treasurer who got arrested, who took money, redoing policies and bringing things in place, putting process in place, organizing people, resolving issues with resources in the police department, fire department, other departments. So there's still a lot to do, and I'm sure we'll talk about it tonight. So, like I said, I'm just looking for your support to be reelected. And if I don't get reelected, it doesn't mean I won't continue volunteering. Thank you.
Working. It was you. Carrie Douglas, would you say hello?
Hello? Is it working okay? All right.
Yeah.
It's because I'm the more appropriate height for this microphone setting. My name is Carrie Douglas, and I am running for a position on both the Board of Selectmen and the school board. I have been in town for 10 years with my husband. We have 2 small boys who are currently attending GMS. I was a construction project manager prior to staying home with my boys. So why am I involved? And then I became a member of the budget committee. I've been a member of the budget committee for 5 years, and I've served as vice chair for a couple of them. It's been a great opportunity for me to use my project management skills and other experience training that I've had in a way that benefits this town. Because I do stay home with my boys, it was an excellent outlet for me to continue to keep those skills current and relevant while also trying to give back to the community. And so now I'm looking to serve on the Board of Selectmen and the school board. And part of the reason I'm doing that is through my position on the budget committee, I had an opportunity to really learn about the two boards in town. What are their priorities, what are their challenges, and what are their goals for the future? And I've been able to use those project management skills in a way that benefits the town through that committee. I was a member of the school board's Building and Grounds Committee, which put forth some recommendations for the security improvements that have been implemented at the 3 schools. They also reviewed the district-wide analysis of the buildings, and we put forth some recommendations that would address many of the issues that we currently experience throughout the district. I've also recently been involved in helping in collaborating with the town to bring the fire station project within budget and within the taxpayer expectations. It's a project and a concern that's been facing this town since long before I moved here, and the proposal that came forward, well, we had some taxpayer and resident feedback that was indicated a bit of a challenge there, so we helped go back to the drawing board, worked together, found a scope that would meet the needs of the fire department while also being within the expectations of the taxpayer. And as I drive down Albuquerque, I'm very proud of what we've been able to accomplish there, working as a team. Because to me, that's what town government is, working together, resolving the problems in a way that benefits everybody. And as a member of both committees, I think it would be an excellent opportunity to help bring the boards together, because we do have challenges facing this town, both on the school and both on the town side, and some of them can be resolved if we work together more effectively. So I would ask for your support on March 12th, and if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. Thank you.
Robert Leary.
Hope this stays up. Well, I'm the tallest guy running, I think. My name is Robert Leary. I grew up in this town, born and raised here, with the exception of the 4 years I served in the Army. My whole family's been here since the town was pretty much settled, dating back to the McQuestion and the Goff clans. Why I would run for this spot? Frankly, because a lot of people asked me to, and they said we could use some new blood on the board and maybe some fresh ideas. I'm a veteran of the military. I also help on the Memorial Day ceremonies where I lay a wreath at the library with another gentleman in town, also a veteran. Coach youth sports right up through rec soccer, basketball, baseball, all the way up through high school baseball. I'm my own business owner. I've had a painting business for 30 years. Probably ran across Mrs. Douglas's group at some point in Massachusetts. I don't know a lot of these people. I really don't have a like or dislike for any of them. No, that sounds wrong. But I don't have an agenda. I'm just running to maybe try and help the town and better the town a little bit. This is not my format. I'd rather sit down and have a cup of coffee with somebody. I promised Betty when came time to talk I wouldn't be long-winded. So on March 12th, I ask for your support. Thank you very much for being here tonight.
Mr. Kevin Lynch. Okay, maybe you want to put this up here too, just in case.
Hi there. Kevin Lynch, you heard. I've been a resident of this town all my life. Unlike Bob, I was born and raised here. My mother was born and raised and still lives in the same house, okay, here as well. I've been in government for 38 years to 39 years as a building official. I retired. I've been involved with the town of Litchfield a lot. I was in the Litchfield the fire department from almost 20 years when it first was a small department till we put the addition on the back of the one that's there now. I made it up to deputy chief and had kids. Had to stay home a little bit more. That's what happens when you get called out in the middle of the night a lot. I was on the zoning board of adjustment for 8-9 years in town here. I also was on what we call the Conservation Commission back in the 70s that Pat Jewett put me through. She sent me away and I came back. Okay? My point here, I want to give back to the town. It's been in my blood. My mother, who's here tonight, she was a tax collector in this town for 20 years, and town clerk for 18, I guess. We've always been part of the town. My father, as well, was on the fire department, one of the founding members. And this is back in the day when you used to drive a truck without a license. You could do that back then. Today they frowned on it. But it's one of those, I just like to give back. I've lived in town. My wife, who I've been married to for 38 years, I get that right? Okay. And I have two kids that I've raised that have gone through the school system. They're both married, and I'm a grandfather, and I love every damn minute of that, I must say, because we take care of her. I just feel that I like to come back to town, do a little more, be a little more open. I felt in a few years, or last 5, 6, 7 years, things weren't really out there, or else the people they rely on the television more. They don't go to meetings and stuff like that, which I understand. They're very boring, but that's how town is run. And if somebody has something to say or go to the meeting, I expect somebody there to at least tell you, yeah, I'll find out the answer, or if you can do it there that night, do it. Okay? Don't be afraid. Okay? If you're wrong, correct yourself. I'm not afraid of making a mistake. Okay? A building inspector, as I was, I made mistakes. I'll be the first person to tell you, no one in this world is perfect. Okay? If you find that person besides my wife, okay, I like to meet him, but no one's ever perfect. I just want to give back, change things. Okay, I'm done. Okay, the poster came up. Thank you very much. Hope you vote for me. And Bobby, I've known all my life. God bless him. Okay?
Mr. Andrew Santum.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Andy Santum, and I'll just start with why I'm running. It is because I was asked to, just like you. I've been living in Litchfield since 1997. I got off active duty in the Army, and moved to Litchfield. I have 3 children. I served on the Board of Selectmen from the year 2006 to 2009. I didn't rerun. John Brunel won my seat, so I guess I'm running for my seat again. I'm a no-nonsense guy. I like to keep the debates short. I'm a common sense person. I'll tell you 2 of the warrant articles which I do support. I always want to have a appointed fire chief, and I also believe the town needs a town administrator. I was on the Board of Selectmen before we had a town administrator, and it was a nightmare. Literally. You can't imagine the day-to-day activities that go on in this town without understanding what the town administrator actually does for the Board of Selectmen. It is a lot of day-to-day work. It was a lot of work when we didn't have one, and it is a must for this town. The town is too big now to not have the day-to-day operations being run. So if you want a no-nonsense guy who's going to cut right down the middle, you can vote for me. Thanks.
Thank you, Board of Selectmen candidates. For Budget Committee, we have Jennifer Bork. I'm going to steal my microphone back, 'cause that's-
Yes. There you go. Thank you. Good evening. I am Jen Burke, also known as Jen Bork, and I am seeking re-election for the Budget Committee for the one-year term. And I recognize that I'm running unopposed, but I didn't want to give up the opportunity to kind of come up here and just tell you a little bit about what I'm about. And I don't know why I'm so nervous, because I know a lot of people in this room, but for some reason I am, so bear with me. I'd like to consider myself pretty involved within the community. I was a member and am a member of the PTOs in many of the schools. I was the fundraising chair at GMS. I know, exciting. Even more exciting, I was the box top coordinator at GMS. Yep, I know you're jealous. And I'm pretty involved with a number of other boards as well. I am the special events coordinator for the Litchfield Youth Soccer League, which runs the Halloween Jamboree, if you're not familiar with it. It's our 5th year running it. It's a soccer tournament with teams from all over the state that come here. And we raise scholarship money. We've raised 3 $1,000 scholarships for Campbell's graduates, so pretty proud of that. I'm currently the president of the Litchfield Youth Soccer League as well. I also serve on the board of the lacrosse board here in town. I'm the coaching coordinator there and the girls program coordinator. I'm very dedicated to the sport of lacrosse. I actually coach girls lacrosse at the U10 level, at the U14 level, and I have the joy and pleasure of dealing with high school girls and being the JV coach here at Campbell High School. So I get a lot of passion and enjoyment from that. Professionally, I work for the Home Depot. I've been there for about 2.5 years. I'm a district human resource manager with 11 stores in 2 states, covering about 2,500 associates that I support. Prior to that, I had a 21-year career with Toys R Us. Very happy to be at Home Depot and not Toys R Us. And I had positions of increasing responsibility as I grew my career with that company. On the personal front, I have 4 amazing kids. One is a 2017 Campbell graduate who's currently a sophomore at Springfield College. I have a freshman here at Campbell. I'm sorry. I have a 6th grader at LMS, and then our littlest one is in 3rd grade at GMS. I share these things because I want you to understand that I've got a vast business background that I think supports the position of a budget committee member, but I also really understand what it's like to live in this community, as I've lived here for the past 14 years. When I first ran for the budget committee exactly 3 years ago, I saw some things that I really liked, and I saw some things that I thought could use improvement, and I'm sure that's not dissimilar to a lot of the folks up here tonight. And I will tell you that I thought that the experience that I had might be able to benefit our town. That being said, full disclosure, I definitely have a different idea of how things work than I did when I first ran. The one thing that has stayed true is really my commitment to wanting to be involved and really wanting to help our town. I believe very strongly in fiscal responsibility, and I think I take my role very seriously on the budget committee of presenting a balanced budget that I think is fair to our taxpayers, but I also really believe in investing in the future of our town. I think every once in a while we have to spend money in order to benefit us in the long run, and so I think that those decisions need to be carefully balanced. And they need to be spread out over a period of years, but I really believe in the long-term vision and the fact that in order for us to truly be successful in this community and to continue to make Litchfield a desirable community, we need to make sure that we've got a strong foundation, both from a structural standpoint with our buildings and maintenance, but also with our educational foundation as well. So that is very, very important to me. I think Litchfield is an amazing place to live. I think it's a great place to raise a family, and I think it's a great place to retire and a great place to just be a part of. And I am committed to continuing to make decisions that are on the best benefit of the total community. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Mr. Andrew Cutter.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Andrew Cutter, and like Jen, I am now the current Box Tops guy, so super excited about that, right? And Tina, too. Right? You've done Box Tops. So I am running for Budget Committee. I've lived here in town for about 9 years. I have 3 kids, 2 of which that are currently in GMS. I spent 4 years leading the Budget Committee in the past, so I do have a lot of experience on the Budget Committee. I'm running for the 3-year term. On the budget committee, you really need somebody that takes a hard look at the numbers, is pretty much a straight shooter, right, and is able to decipher, truly wants versus needs. I think for those that have worked with me or have seen past meetings that, I've either led or been a part of, you'll know that I'm pretty much a straight shooter, right? And I have no problems diving into the tough conversations, having those tough conversations, being able to drill into the 150-plus page school budget or, the town line-by-line items. And I take that with pride, right? It's my way of giving back to this community. I like doing it. I like helping out. And I, just want to make sure that we present fair and reasonable budgets to the taxpayer, whether it be an operating budget that we can all support or, a default budget that makes sense, whatever it might be. And that's why I'm running, right? I think I have the experience. I led an internal audit team for a large Fortune 10 company, multinational company. I have a ton of audit experience that is very relevant for the role and being able to dive into the finances and look at the numbers. And that has played nicely for the specific budget committee position. So I thank you for your time and look forward to your support on March 12th. Thank you.
Mr. William G. Hayes.
Hi, everyone. William G. Hayes, and I'm running for 3 years on the Budget Committee. I'm running unopposed. If you want to write in another candidate, that's entirely up to you. But I did want to take this opportunity to introduce myself. I live at 12 Pheasant Street and have for a number of years. I've been in town my entire life. Well, not my entire life because it's not over yet. But back in 1949 when I left St. Joseph Hospital, I moved to right on the corner of Page Road and 3A. You probably know it as the old Schoolhouse Gallery that was owned and operated by my parents, Frank and Charlotte Hayes. So, longtime resident. And my purpose for running is to give back to the town that has provided me so much over the years, not only in goods and services, but also a place to grow up and to raise, my children. And they attended all of the school system in Litchfield, and my youngest graduated from Campbell High School. I'm a fiscal conservative. You need to know that. I'm very concerned about budgets, and I believe in spending, but it needs to be controlled and well thought out. I'm organized. I'm responsive to emails if anybody wants to reach out to me. Phone calls, I do answer them. I know budgets very well because I've worked for a number of companies. The one that I just retired from is McKesson Corporation. They're a Fortune 5 company, and we lived and breathed by budgets. I've created budgets. I've been accountable to the budgets. I've done sales forecasting, etc. I know spreadsheets. I'm an effective negotiator, and I'm an effective communicator. So I appreciate your time and also your vote on March 12th. And if you have any questions, don't be afraid to ask. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Budget Committee members, candidates. For School Board, Brian Bork.
Hello and good evening. My name is Brian Burke, and I'm seeking re-election for the School Board. I've been on the school board for the past 6 years, and I've been the school board chair for the last 4 years. Prior to that, I was the GMS PTO president, and I did comp box tops, and I was involved in the school community. I have 4 children also, one at GMS, one at LMS, and one at CHS, and a graduate from 2017 from CHS. Prior to that, I was the manager of operations of businesses with sales volumes of $10 to $25 million. I share this because the experience is vast, and I have a proven track record of building teams and delivering results. These skills have served me well in the past 6 years at the school board. In the past 6 years, I've been fortunate enough to be part of, and in many cases lead in significant change in the school district. When I was first elected to the school board 6 years ago, the district was in a vast different place than it is today. I've taken my experience, both personally and professionally, and been able to help facilitate changes over the past 6 years in this district. Some of my accomplishments that I am particularly proud of to date on the school board is the implementation of one-to-one technology in grades 5 through 12. This was a vision of the school district when I first joined the board, and it came through fruition through hard work with our educators and our district team. Additionally, we've made significant changes to our administrative team. We have a new superintendent in place, a new business administrator, a new curriculum director, and a new food director, along with 2 principals, one at GMS and one at CHS. During my first few years at the school board, I had the opportunity to be the school board rep to the budget committee. And typically, this is not exactly the most favorite job of anyone on the school board, but I want to use my past experiences in this area. I was able to quickly comprehend the expectations of the budget committee and understand the view of them ensuring that the budget met the needs of all our students and our taxpayers. Upon becoming the school board chair, I was able to successfully institute a more streamlined and detailed budget and also a process between the budget committee and the school board. In addition to the work done on the budget side, I've also been a contributing part of addressing some of the district concerns. We have a new superintendent who is looking to bring the school district to a whole new level. We've made needed and necessary security changes to our facilities and continue to look for new and innovative ways to provide our educators with the best resources available. The needs of our students new this year is the implementation of full-day kindergarten, which also puts the district at a competitive advantage in terms of desirability. Should I be reelected, my focus would be to continue to provide transparency to the taxpayers in regards to the school district's budget. And I want to say Tina Harrison joined the school board 3 years ago, and she has been instrumental in that area. Additionally, it's imperative that we have a school board members such as myself who understand the needs of the district. Right now, we're 30 seconds. Okay.
Right now.
Right now, we're kind of like stabilized as far as enrollment, and it's a challenge right now to make certain that we get the balance of high school classes and courses offerings that we've had and been able to offer here at Campbell High School and continue to do so to make certain that our students are ready to get off to college or to at least be life ready if they don't go to college. Again, so what I ask is for your support come March 12th. Thank you very much.
And Miss Christina Harrison, please. Christina, sorry.
It's not the first time anybody's
Yeah.
told me that. That's okay. Hi. Thank you, Brian, for those kind words. I'm running for school board, and I've been on the school board for the past 3 years. When I ran last time, 3 years ago, my goals were pretty much the same as they are now. We've accomplished a lot in the last 3 years, and I've been really proud and honored to be a part of that process. But I feel like we're ready to launch. I feel like we've set the stage. We have, like Brian mentioned, we have an excellent new superintendent, new curriculum director, new leadership at our schools, new food services, new business administrator. And I feel like all the pieces are finally starting to come together, and now we're ready to roll to continue our journey towards excellence. My goals are to continue to be a communicator. One of the reasons I first ran for school board was because I noticed there was a big disconnect between the school board and the community. And I've tried over the last 3 years to streamline communications by creating a social media presence, by listening to.
You're good.
Am I making that hum?
No?
Am I the
What
only?
hum?
Okay, never mind. I don't hear bells in my ears or anything. So by creating a presence on Facebook, you're probably sick of seeing my posts about, what's going on in the schools. But I've also been able to answer a lot of questions, and I've tried to be an open listener. I'd love to hear new ideas and thoughts on how things are done, how things could be done. And I think it takes a good deal of listening in order to be a good leader. And I think I've done that. We still are facing challenges with our facilities. As Brian mentioned, we've been able to add security to our learning spaces. We're still dealing with aging buildings, and I've been an advocate for and will continue to advocate for a long-term plan that makes sense. I feel like for many years we've been a little short-sighted in our planning. The Band-Aids, the short-term spending and repairs, Band-Aid type fixes don't work in the long run and aren't as cost efficient as we could be. So I'm pushing for a solid plan that we can all work on together to balance the cost for taxpayers and make the most of the resources that we have. I think Litchfield's biggest strength, the school district's biggest strength, and our town's biggest strength is in our people. We have some of the best educators, some of the best leaders in our district, and I'm really, really excited to see how far we can go. I have 2 children. I have a freshman, a daughter who's a freshman, and a son who is in 5th grade right now. And the teachers that they've had have been some of the most creative, dedicated, caring. You all hear that now too, right?
I hear it now. Yeah.
Okay.
That's
Thank
not
you. I'm not crazy. Dedicated individuals and support staff that they could have had the luck to have support them through their education. I was a teacher once upon a time before I decided to be a stay-at-home mom with my kids. So I recognize what teachers need to be successful. I've been a volunteer. I've talked to teachers. I've been a volunteer in our schools. I feel like I have perspective as a teacher, as a parent, as a volunteer. I did box tops, but I also started Raise Craze, which raised way more money than box tops. And I'm still the fundraising coordinator at LMS PTO. So basically, I feel like I've just started. I've just begun. And I'm really excited about where we can be in 3 years, in 5 years, in 10 years down the road. So thanks for your support.
Thank you, candidates. Okay, so now we're at the point where we'll take a 10-minute break. There are some refreshments out in the hallway. There are cards and pens and pencils up at the back of the room here. Please fill out any questions that you'd like to have read. You'll also have an opportunity to speak at the microphone if you prefer. Make sure you write clearly. Be specific as to whom you like the question asked, if not for everybody. Let's say we'll reassemble in 10 minutes, maybe at 6:48, 6:50 or so, give or take. Okay? You're free to congregate. Mingle.
Sometimes it just hits you, you know how that is. That's kind of Oh, yeah, no, I'm good. I actually have a little work thing going on. Yeah. There's a flood in Somersworth. Sprinkler head. Huh? No. Sprinkler head in the store. Not. Oh, no. That does not fall in my scope of responsibility. I just need to make sure no one is hurt.
Good. Do I want a pillow?
Okay, so you're starting to put your questions on paper. We're going to call to order in a couple minutes. Okay. All right, so we have a 1-minute warning.
So if they don't show back up, they get voted off the island?
And if you don't shut back up on stage, you don't get voted in. How's that?
John, you're in.
You're in, John.
I can talk just like you can.
I am.
All right, I wish I had my whistle, but I don't. No. There you go. I almost brought the gavel, but I didn't think it was appropriate tonight. No, not for you it doesn't. Okay, we're all sugared up. We've got some good questions lined up. You got one more? Okay, I have not looked at these questions, but we have reviewed them for appropriateness. What I'm going to do is ask a question. If it's targeted to a particular candidate, that candidate gets to answer first, and then subsequent candidates or peer candidates get to answer as well. We'd like to keep it to about 3 minutes each. It's relative random order, so it's not all school board and then what have you. Let's go. Okay, this is a question for school board candidates. An awesome presentation was made on behalf of the LEA contract. What are your thoughts as to the value of support staff in this district, and how would you work together to resolve contractual issues with the LSS? Anybody? Anybody? Bueller? No. Young kids don't know who that is.
I'm sorry, if you could just repeat it again?
Yes. An awesome presentation was made on behalf of the LEA contract. What are your thoughts as to the value of support staff in this district, and how would you work together to resolve contractual issues with the LSS? Okay. Would be good to, can you just, LEA and LSS, just get it on the table.
Litchfield Support Staff.
Yeah.
And the Litchfield Education Association.
There you go.
So, yes, the LEA, there was a good presentation as far as their contract. Unfortunately, for the support staff, conversations broke down and negotiations broke down, and we were not able to get to a contract. And that's one of the reasons why there was not a good presentation for the support staff. If you're asking me as a school board member, what the value of the support staff is, it's extremely important. I mean, they're the backbone of the operations. They're the secretaries at the 3 schools. They're the food service employees, the maintenance employees. They're all an important part of, I'm gonna move away from this, an important part of the operation. Unfortunately, talks just broke down as far as the negotiations, and we're not able to, we got to a standstill and we couldn't go any further.
That was Brian Bork, by the way. Would anyone else like to respond to that question? Just state your name when you start, please.
Sure. I'm Christina Harrison. I wasn't at the negotiation table with the LSSA this time around. My first year on the board, I was at the table, and we successfully negotiated a contract. The board decided, the entire school board decided early on, before the negotiation process started, that we needed a district-wide switch to the yellow. We call it the yellow plan. It's the consumer-driven health plan. So this time around, I was on the team that negotiated the LEA contract, the teacher contract, and we were able to reach an agreement with them, realizing what a big sacrifice it was to make that switch and making accommodations to make that switch a little easier for our teachers. I'm confident that were we to return to the table, I'm confident that we could reach a similar agreement with the LEA, with the LSSA, the support staff. Like Brian said, they're an integral part of our organization. Our students depend on them. Our parents rely on them. These are the people that cook the students' lunches and answer the phones at our buildings and make our schools run smoothly. And without them, we'd have a lot of issues. So, given another shot at it, I think once this election is over, if we were to return to the negotiation table, I think we could work something out that wouldn't necessarily make everyone happy, because I'm fairly certain, in the art of compromise, I guess I heard that, when you negotiate, if you're successful, if everybody leaves the table unhappy. I want everybody to be happy, but it is a process of give and take, and I don't think we can blame any one person sitting at the table, at the negotiation table, for what happened. We kind of all had our goals, and hopefully we can meet those in the future and get a contract for the LSSA too.
Thank you.
Carrie Douglas. So I was not at the table, but I can say that I absolutely value the support staff. My sons come home and with amazing stories of lunch monitors and recess monitors and secretaries and nurses and staff and people who have made an impact on their lives. So there is no doubt that they are a very important part of the school system. And because, as was said, without them, we're not going to function at maximum. That said, like I said, I was not at the negotiating table. I have no idea why it broke down. But negotiations are give and take. People need to come in. There's going to be somebody coming in with one thing and the other person coming in with something else. And you have to find common ground and meet in the middle. And to do that, you have to approach it with an open mind, willingness to listen, and try to understand where the other person is coming from. Now, I may not have been at the negotiating table here, but I have been at other negotiating tables. I've negotiated contracts in the construction industry where we're talking lots of money and lots of work, and when you try to sit down and at least view it from the other person's perspective, what are they trying to achieve and what am I trying to achieve, and where do those two goals intersect, and try to find a way that we can get there together. To me, we could have come forward with something. It's a shame we didn't, but I honestly can't say what happened or why, only say that how I would have approached it, and perhaps with open dialogue. Open dialogue solves a lot. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Next question for the Budget Committee. What is one thing that is essential for Budget Committee members to have experience in? What is your background in all things finance? It's an open question to anyone running for Budget Committee.
So I'll take that question. I'm Andrew Cutter again. So the number, I hear the humming.
This is Andrew Cutter.
So the most important thing in terms of a trait that you can have on the Budget Committee is being able to analyze the numbers, right? Understanding what makes sense, what doesn't make sense, you know, both from the town and from the school perspective. There's going to be numbers in there that are being requested on both sides that may be inflated. Being able to articulate why the numbers are inflated, have an understanding of true needs versus wants is a critical component of the Budget Committee. And, you know, having been a part of the committee for 4 years, that's something that I'm proud to say that I've done time and time again. And what was the second part of the question?
It's, let's see.
My experience, right?
Your experience, all things finance.
Yeah, so, you know, I had worked for a Fortune 10 financial services company for 15 years. I am in a financial services company now. You know, I have lots of experience in the finance arena. I led an internal audit team for 15 years, right? Being able to audit finances and statements are clearly part of my background and history and part of why I'm running for this particular position.
Thank you, sir.
Hi there, Jen Burke. So I think I covered kind of in my introduction what my background is and how that supports the role in the Budget Committee, but in my career with Toys R Us, I had a number of different operational positions. Most notably, I was a district manager for 11 stores in the Boston market and had direct top and bottom line responsibility for a budget of $125 million. So I think that experience is relevant. I would say the most important quality is really being able to separate your personal experience as much as I reference my personal experience. When I make a decision at the Budget Committee, it's not about Jamie, Bailey, Jack, and Zoe. It's about the Litchfield community overall, and I think that's critically important on the Budget Committee.
Thank you. Anyone else? No? Okay. Next question is for the Board of Selectmen candidates. What are your ideas for improvements on the BOS? Anyone? Anyone?
Okay, I'll bring it.
Oh, come on.
It's always the old guy first. Kevin Lynch, one of the ideas that I've always said from it is openness. I've noticed, in my opinion, when I've worked with boards over the last years, like I said, as a building official, I've always in front of the Board of Selectmen for many meetings. And I found that openness to the community is very, very important. Okay? The other thing, communication, not just between ourselves, but to you guys. Let people know what's going on and don't be afraid to get in trouble sometimes. Okay? You're always going to get in trouble. I always did. Okay? But I'm just saying that's what helps. So my point is open communication. Tell them what's going on and don't jump into everything. I'm not a Class A type personality. I'm a farm boy. You look at it, you look at it again. And then you decide whether it can be done this way or that way. Sometimes jumping in is not always good. You got to sit back and wait. There's something else that will come up and they'll make it work. Okay?
Thank you, sir. Anybody else? Sure. What are your ideas for improvements on the BOS?
So, I think Kevin hit on some of them, and I'm not going to try to echo them, but, you know, transparency, as we said, being open, we have to think forward. We can't think about the short-term stuff. We have to think about what happens going down the road. So all better long-term planning. And that's in everything, right? That's with our communication plans to the community, and we've tried that. We've improved that over the years. It's going to continue to get better. We need to have a better outlook in our capital planning, as I said earlier. We have infrastructure challenges we've got to deal with. And so we need to get ahead of that and start planning it. It's not, you know, the unfortunate part is there's no quick answer and there's no quick solution. Everything's going to take time. And as I said in my opening remarks, when I joined the board, we were faced with a lot of different issues. And it took us time to resolve it. And we've got a good path going forward, but we can still improve on that. And I think we'll still continue to improve on that.
Anybody else? Ideas for improvements in the BOS?
What? Well, between you and John, you've hit a lot of them. So there does need to be additional openness within the community, but there also needs to be openness, I think, among the departments themselves, talking to our employees, getting their feedback and valuing their opinions. I also think, like John said, more long-term strategic planning. As a member of the Budget Committee, I've asked for an analysis of as the school did a district-wide analysis of their facilities, I'd like to see something similar to that done on the Board of Selectmen. So we understand where we are, where we need to go, and what challenges we're going to face in the coming future. People get very upset when all of a sudden they see this expensive tax bill, but if we can start planning ahead and addressing things in a more proactive manner, where we have more choices and better choices. So planning ahead and working together to solve the problems of this community. So that is what I think we need to improve. Thank you.
That was Carrie Douglas. You got that right? Yeah.
Robert Leary. I would just like to think that the selectmen could maybe get out in the community a little bit more and talk to the people and find out their ideas, because this town's got a lot of great ideas. I rarely see a selectman out in public. We used to see him at the Memorial Day Parade, and we haven't seen him in years. Get out in the town, talk to the people. They'll tell you what's on their minds.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else? Mr. Santom, you want to say something? No good? Okay. Okay, the next question. I want to also, if you have a question you'd like to ask at the microphone, by all means, just stand up in front of the microphone, and I'll see that you're there, and you can speak next, all right? The next question, I'm not sure if this is to the Board of Selectmen or to the Budget Committee, but currently the BOS budget is unorganized and quite long, 25 to 35 pages. How do you plan to streamline this? What is your favorite color?
Wow.
John Brunel.
Yeah, sorry, John Brunel. So when I came on the board, the budgets were very disorganized. Every department submitted in a different format. Every department had their own way of explaining what they were trying to accomplish. In the last 7 years, maybe, last 7 years, 8 years, the Board of Selectmen's budget, the town budget, is pretty much consistent. It is 25 pages long because we do break it down department by department, and there are, accountings we have to do that we have to follow for accounting practices. But the town's budget is pretty set standard. I think if the Budget Committee come up, they'll probably tell you that over the last 5 years, looking at that budget, it's been consistent. The same line items, the same kind of needs. Again, the town doesn't have a lot of knobs, right? We have a lot of good employees, and we have some, expenses that we've tried to keep flat. Try to, address those challenges in small increments as we can. So I'm not sure there's a lot more we can do. But, we publish it, so if someone knows it's 25 pages long, it's because someone's actually going to the website and looking at it, and that I do applaud whoever asked the question. And that's something that, we've already worked hard to get it down. And just to kind of, if you don't mind, I think several folks mentioned, getting out in front of the public and all that. I've said it before in other meetings. We need public input at the Board of Selectmen's meeting before some of these articles come up and before some of these happen. And you're right, we should get out more. I've been to every Memorial Parade except for one, I believe. I think the last one I was there, I presented Pat Jewett an award. So again, we try to get out there. I'm in and out of town all day. I visit the employees, which I think is really critical. So, but the budget is streamlined, and I'm not sure how much we can do to streamline it any further.
Anyone else? On either the Budget Committee or the Board of Selectmen? No? No other takers in that one? Okay. The next one is, what has been your greatest joy and your biggest challenge during your tenure on the board? This is directed to the school board candidates. I guess I might even direct it to the selectmen as well. You talking. What has been your greatest joy and your biggest challenge during your tenure on the board? And I'm going to open this up to everybody. There you go.
Brian Burke. I said earlier, and I'll repeat it, there are a couple. Definitely the one-to-one implementation for technology in our schools from 5 through 12. And hopefully in the very near future that we'll also see some of the younger kids down at GMS with tablets. It's the direction with technology that education is going. Next, I think kindergarten. Getting full-day kindergarten in the schools, in our school, has just been, I think, a tremendous step for the community. I think the second part is.
Your biggest challenge and your greatest joy, or vice versa.
Okay. The greatest challenge right now, I think, is looking at GMS, and I think it's been a challenge since I've been here in town. I've been here since 2005, and it's the need, I think, right now to seriously look again at replacing that building. It's old, it's undersized. We utilize all the space we possibly could in that building, along with, right now, we have 5 temporary buildings, well, like one large building that has 4 classrooms and then 1 separate classroom out there. There's no other space to be utilized within that school. And there's no need in this, you can't build on top of that school or addition to that school. And I think my biggest joy thus far to date, is that what the other part is?
Your joys and challenges.
Joys and challenges. So again, another joy I think is just the team that we've built over the last 6 years within all 3 schools. I think we have a solid foundation, an extremely solid foundation, and I think it's going to carry us through a period of time that is going to make our school district a unique and desirable community to come to. Thank you.
Anybody else? Mr. Brunel?
So, joys first. Biggest joys from taking on this role was working with the employees of the town, meeting citizens, being part of something that's making a difference. You know, we've accomplished a lot. We've accomplished things like with the police department increasing resources, stabilizing our employees, the fire department investments, the investments we've made in our highway department, both in the road and infrastructure and in the department itself. There's a lot more to go. Challenges, all of the above, right? We have infrastructure challenges around our highways and our roads. We have a 25-year plan that we've made good progress in with the help of the voters, but we still have a lot more to do. We have resource needs within the police department. We have resource needs within the fire department, even though we have a new fire station. So we still have a lot of things to plan for. Again, it's all this long-term planning we have to get through and start setting a roadmap to help us get to where we need to be. That's it. Thank you.
Anybody else want us to respond to that?
Want me to introduce Carrie Douglas again?
Yeah.
All right. So my greatest joys have been giving back to the community. It's been an amazing opportunity to be able to see through my work at the Budget Committee what actually goes on in town. How is the town operating on the town side? What are the operations on the school side? How is it working? Getting to meeting the people who actually make things run. And more recently for me, one of my biggest joys is the accomplishment I see on Albuquerque is the fire station. How working together to solve a problem in town. It's been a long problem, long concern, and to finally see that resolved in a way that meets the needs of the firefighters and those of the taxpayers, it just makes me incredibly happy when I drive past it. The challenges I see, or that I've experienced, working on the school board's Building and Grounds Committee, we advocated for a district-wide assessment. We made recommendations to address all 3 buildings, and that's where it sits. And so for me, the challenge is long-term investment in both the schools and the towns, because not investing is only going to cost us more in the long run. And so we talk about space constraints at GMS. One option is a new building. Another option is looking at a holistic approach. Are there ways that we can address the needs of the school district using resources we already have available, using town resources and school resources together to solve a problem that may not need a new school building? We need to look at options, and yes, there is a need to do something, but we need to explore all options. So one of the challenges is that long-term planning. Thank you.
Actually, Christina's up next.
Carrie just kind of bridged back to school, so I'm going to continue that train. Christina Harrison. One of my biggest joys was last year on Election Day when the warrant article for kindergarten passed, and the 2 years before that when the warrant articles for the teacher contract and the LSSA contract passed. It's really exciting for me to be a part of changing what's going on in our schools, but also communicating that and getting support for our schools in our community. Those are my biggest achievements. I feel like, I can work as hard as I can, but without the community being involved and the community being supportive, it doesn't matter. We need that support to do the work that we need to do. And one of my greatest challenges, Brian can attest to, is can be summed up in 2 words: patience, grasshopper. We've had a lot of changes in the past 3 years. For me, I see a problem, I want it fixed now, or tomorrow, or as soon as possible. But change within a big organization like our school district happens by evolution. It's not an overnight change. You can't just flip a switch and make things better. So that, for me, being able to slow down and see the work, the little bits and pieces that need to come together before the big change is realized, has been my challenge. So I continue to remind myself to slow down, take a deep breath, and reassure myself that we're on the right track. We are moving forward and improving.
Anybody else? Mr. Santom.
Andy Santom for Selectman. Can you repeat the question?
Sure. What has been your greatest joy and your biggest challenge during your tenure on the board? Of course, you aren't on the board right now.
No, but I was on the board in 2006 to 2009, and there is no joy being a selectman. There isn't.
You didn't tell me that before.
Huh?
You didn't say that before.
All right, so, but I would change joy to accomplishment.
Okay.
I think I was on the board when we pushed through and successfully got the town administrator. I actually wanted a town manager at the time, but I think the administrator helped out the current Board of Selectmen immensely. Their workload dropped immensely, and I think it helped manage the town a lot better. Biggest challenge, when I got on the board, there was a major rift between the police department and the fire department. Major rift. And there were a lot of personal grudges on the board. And I remember my very first meeting getting yelled at in public discussion. I had no idea what the issue was. And I think the biggest problem this town has with small town politics are personal grudges. And that's what you got to work through. You got to, you just got to be middle of the road. With a lot of debates, I always had a saying: "Be bold, be brief, be gone." And I always just wanted. I got laughed at a lot for being the guy who always would say, "Call the question," because I wanted to end the debate before the personal grudges got in the way. So that's always been the biggest challenge I ever had on the board.
Thank you. Anyone else on a board or not on a board? If you're not on a board, what do you hope to achieve? What do you think would be your biggest accomplishment or your biggest challenge?
I'm going to go with this one.
Go ahead, Kevin.
Kevin Lynch. Between the board and the board, my biggest thing is, as a taxpayer, I feel like I've been on a board. Okay, every year I pay the taxes. I think when a school department has something going on, or the Board of Selectmen has something going on, and it's all about your tax dollar, you got to communicate that between the two parties, because it's one tax bill that goes out. okay? And sometimes you can rush to get this done, or that comes first. You gotta set your priorities for the whole group, not just for one group here and another group there. That's how I feel about it. So, I know that the school board has their things, and Board of Selectmen have their things. I've seen it for 38 years or 30-some-odd years that I've been married, and I lived here all my life, and I watched it. I just wanted to get together, and that'll help with the taxes in the future. Okay?
Sir?
Brian Burke. Just to Kevin's point that he just made, Kevin, I'm not sure if you're aware or if the public's aware, but about a year ago, we started meetings, the school superintendent, myself as a school board chair, the chair of the selectmen, and the chair of the budget committee, along with the town manager and the business administrator of the schools. And we've had several meetings, and we're going to continue to have meetings, that we get together probably on a quarterly basis to discuss things like that, so that if the town, I'll give an example, if the town was planning to build a fire department, we're not going to come up with a warrant article to build a school, those type of things. But we decided over a year ago that we were going to, on a regular basis, come together for exactly that reason. So we're all working together rather than working apart. Thank you.
Okay. What role do you think student input should play in the school board's discussion and decision-making process? Any school board member? Any member?
Christina Harrison. I consider our students one of the stakeholders in our organization, along with our taxpayers and our parents and our families and our teachers. And students are I guess, in some way, in a weird way, the product that we're creating, that we're molding and growing and preparing for the world. So I think student input is important. I seek it out. I love when students come to school board meetings and share their ideas and share their thoughts about things that we're discussing. I'm happy to receive emails from students from time to time, or talk to students. Now that I have a middle schooler and a high schooler, I often chat about, what do you think of this policy? What about this? Would you like to change? Or how do you see that? How is this unfair? How is this fair? I love having those conversations with students. So I think it's important to listen to our students, because you're the ones in the trenches, and, it's your experience that we want to improve and grow.
Okay. Anybody else? Mr. Bork?
Brian Burke. At the high school, there were two representatives who, not on a regular basis, they had in the past come to our meetings and give input as far as from the student population, which I'd love to see that happen more often. There have been different causes that have brought students out to come to meetings. And I wish, and I put it out there, that I'd love to see more students at meetings on a regular basis. It's like Tina said, they're a big component. That's why we're doing what we're doing on the school board, for the students, for their education. So seeing more and more of them on a regular basis at meetings to give input would be fabulous. Thank you.
Carrie Douglas. So the school district I grew up in, we actually had student reps to the school board. There was an election for the junior high. I think it was 8th grade participation in government class. They ran a school-wide election, and they elected students to the school board. They attended regularly, and it was an opportunity for them to give input. It was an excellent opportunity to see how government works through the election process, and to see how feedback is received and provided. I think it's an awesome opportunity. I'm glad to hear that we've had that in the past, and I think that's something that should actually be encouraged and looked into. They are a different perspective. They bring something new to the table. As many different perspectives as you can have to look at a different situation, ask questions, you're going to end up with better decisions. So to me, absolutely. Come to the board, come to the meetings, and have a say.
Thank you. Anybody else? Oh, yeah, well, next question. Anybody else want to answer that question? No? Ma'am, go ahead. State your name first, please.
Hello, good evening. I'm April Weber, and my question is to the school board. How many support staff meetings were conducted before negotiations broke down?
Off the top of my head, I believe it was either 4 or 5, maybe
And then-
more.
And then how many of the LEA meetings were conducted before negotiations were accepted?
Yeah, yeah.
6 or 7, according to the,
Okay, thank you.
you're welcome. All right. Say again? Brian Bork. Yeah. This is again for the school board candidates. Many communities are having a challenge with teacher absenteeism. Do you feel this is an issue in Litchfield, and how can it be kept under control? No takers. They're discussing amongst themselves. You got 3 seconds.
Is that an issue?
We've noticed it too. We've noticed, I think it's kind of a trend. So we have, we have our superintendent who does that, looks into that data and can, we do know when teachers are absent because we have subs come in. So we are looking at ways of improving attendance because time away from our students is time that the students typically aren't learning as much as they would be with the teacher in front of them. We always want a teacher teaching in front of our students. We have great subs, but something is lost when it's not the teacher who's written the plans and knows the students as well and executes the plans. So our teachers, earn every day of their sick days, and they're entitled to that time. I think it's a nation. I don't know if it's a huge problem in our district. Of course, we would like to have all of our teachers in every single day to be with our students, but we have to be understanding of family circumstances and illness and things that arise. So it's something that we keep track of and discuss as a board. And if somebody's abusing the time off, the time off system, then that's up to the principals to address that with their staff members. We keep a 40,000-foot view. And let our administrators handle the staffing and personnel issues when
Thank you.
appropriate.
Yep.
Brian Burke. Just a couple of things also, that contractually, they're allowed X amount of sick days. So if they utilize those sick days, they're entitled to those, they're in the contract. With that being said, though, when we negotiated the last contract prior to this one, was it 2 contracts ago, we negotiated down their amount of sick days. So they have less, incoming teachers right now have less than teachers of 5-6 years ago. And also keep in mind that these teachers are in the classroom with anywhere from 15, 16 children to probably 20, 30, 40 in some of the high school classes. So the chance of them getting ill from one of these children or more than one of them is probably greater than it is in our daily routines. And so they're a little bit different in that regards. I mean, if you're dealing with a bunch of little kids that are sniffling, the chances that you get sick is pretty great. Thank you.
Carrie Douglas. I can't speak to the exact teacher absenteeism that is being addressed, but I can speak from a perspective of substitutes. I have a son who comes home, I have 2 sons in the enrichment program. One of the constant things I would say, how was enrichment today? I don't know, she was pulled to substitute somewhere else. So to me, we need to take a look at how our substitutes are being filled. Why are we not attracting substitutes? Are there things we can do to provide those? Because it's not just an enrichment tutor that's getting pulled, they're the math tutors and the reading tutors. Tutors that have been set aside, positions created to address specific needs for kids. And if we have to resort to pulling them to be substitutes in another classroom, we have a bigger problem. And that's something I think that we really need to consider addressing. Why are we having an issue with obtaining substitutes? And what can we do to address that to benefit everybody? Thanks.
Okay. This is again for the school board. On a scale from 1 to 10, how important do you think the school music program is and why?
Brian Burke. On a scale of 1 to 10, I'd probably put it up there with a 10, along with other extracurricular activities. I think it's important that the arts, music, no different than other courses, are extremely important. So yeah, I believe music is extremely important. Music has been important to me all my life. I'd never played instruments, but I listen to music, a wide variety of music, and I enjoy it. And then my wife was in the band, and she tells me of her experiences in the band and how much it meant to her and how much enjoyment she got out of it. So I give it a 10.
Carrie Douglas. I'm a solid 10. I am an engineer. My husband's an engineer. My eldest, if you meet him, is definitely a future engineer. That said, music is really tied to math, and it's an absolutely amazing way to draw him out in another way. So he taught him responsibility and discipline and an appreciation for something that I can't give him because I can't read a lick of music. So to me, I think it's an excellent addition to rounding out the academic program, and I'm thankful that we have such a dedicated staff and group of volunteers that run such a great program.
Okay. This is for the selectmen candidates. Talk to us about the fire chief article. Are you for or against an appointed fire chief?
As I said in my opening speech, Andy Sanum, Selectman. As I said in my opening speech, I am for an appointed fire chief. I think having an elected fire chief was too much of a popularity contest, and again, egos are behind that, and I think we had a lot of problems with politics, small town politics with an elected position like that. So I think the fire chief should be a hired position by the Board of Selectmen.
Thank you. Anybody else? Mr. Leary?
Robert Leary. This is one, along with the a couple others, warrant articles that I have not expressed an opinion either way. I really believe that's up to you folks, the voters, and nobody should stand up here really and kind of tell you what you should support and not support. That's just my personal opinion. Everybody else can have theirs. I go back and forth on it. We've had great elected fire chiefs before in this town. No one's going to tell me that Tom LeVake or Tom Schofield, Dwayne Hogenkamp, Brett Lemire were not great fire chiefs in this town. So there's an argument either way. I'm not going to tell you which way you should vote or not vote. And I just wanted that out there for everybody. Thank you.
Thanks. Anyone else? Nope. Kevin's up.
Kevin Lynch. I felt elected would be more of a community situation where I felt it was important. There are pros and cons to this. I felt this should have been put out for your review or vote. That's how I felt about it. Just saying no, don't do anything. It's not really the right way to do it. I always felt if you got something to say, put your mouth to it, do it. If you win, you lose, you lose, you lose. I just want everybody to make that decision on how they felt. I will go back that I was with all the chiefs that we never had a problem with them. Until recently, there was a bad time, but that was personalities. That is the first time it ever happened. That's all I got to say. Okay?
Anyone else? Carrie?
Carrie Douglas. So I was originally for returning to elected, and then I went to deliberative with an open mind and listened to what people had to say. I also talked to members of my family who've been involved in firefighting for decades. My uncle was actually a chief of our volunteer fire department. So I asked them, how did you guys choose who's the fire chief? And they had an election, but the election was limited to people within the firefighting community, because those are the people who have to be willing, know who their family member is putting their lives in that person's hands. They have to trust that that person knows what they're doing and have confidence in that ability. That's not the choice that we're given. The choice that we are given right now is, does the entire community decide, or is it an appointed position? And between those two options, I'm on the side of appointing. And I'm on the side of appointing because I would be concerned. I don't have any skin in the game. I don't know who would be, I could put my name in as fire chief, and I'd be, according to the requirements, I'd be eligible, I'd be qualified. That doesn't mean I'd be the right fit. So to me, it's an opportunity to interview the candidates, to figure out their qualifications, to see who actually is qualified to be in that role. And there are more checks and balances with the appointed system. Is it the best system? I don't know. But of the choice between the two, that's the side I'm going to have to side with.
I think I stood up here at deliberative and kind of shared my position at that point, but just to reiterate it, I was part of the Board of Selectmen when we transitioned from an elected to appointed. For all the reasons I think Carrie just kind of indicated, the Board of Selectmen has the ability to name the qualifications and ensure that we have a person that is in that role that can execute on that job. It is true that we've had really good fire chiefs in the past that were also elected, but this is a very important department, and putting it at the hands of a popularity vote, which is what's been expressed in the past, is kind of a risk for the community. If there were ways that when the petitioner brought forward, he presented an idea that the community can pick the candidates who can run, there is no option. I can put my name on the ballot, you can put your name on the ballot. And if you win, you win. You're now the fire chief in charge of a very critical department in the community. So I'm 100% behind maintaining an appointed position and working through one of the issues that may have come up during the petitioner's desire to do what he did. So I hope you support it.
Thank you. Okay. So as a candidate board member, what is the single biggest challenge facing the town, in your opinion? One short sentence, short phrase. Any takers? There you go.
One sentence. Oh, gosh. Jen Burke. I would say on the school district side, declining enrollment, but also declining revenue from the state.
Thank you.
I think the biggest challenge is the tax base. We don't have the revenues, but we have the continuing needs.
I would agree with what John said. We have a lot of people have lived in this town for a lot of years that don't have the income of some of the people that are moving here, and how can we help them with their tax base and their tax problems?
Thank you.
So the challenge is we have a lot of needs in town, and how are we going to pay for them? So long-term strategic planning, both sides, for different reasons, but long-term strategic planning is the challenge that we need to address the needs.
Okay. Kevin, go ahead.
I want to see an arm wrestle now.
Next. Taxes. Bottom line. We are a bedroom community. There's no industrial growth. Things are changing. The schools, enrollment has its issues. The town is not as big as they think they are at times. I'm just saying it, okay? But it is taxes.
Mr. Bork?
Brian Burke. Probably the biggest challenge is how to continue offering a great education with declining revenues from the state.
Any other takers? Okay, sir. State your name, please.
Tom Hurdy. I have a question for the selectmen first. I have two questions, one for the school board and one for the selectmen. So this, for the selectmen, and we've heard a lot about, you know, we don't have enough money and we'd have to put a plan together. If budget was not a concern, what would be your first, second, and third priority?
Money was no object? New car, right? First priority would be continuing the investment in the roads. That's one of our biggest values, or biggest assets. Second priority would be probably tackling our capital needs, which is, I would categorize those as vehicles and other things that we don't have. And then the third would be continuing to help our employees.
If money was no object, right? If money was no object, we would need to put in a town sewer system so we could support industry in town.
It's been voted down, though.
I'm saying if money was no object, you would have to put in a town sewer to support industry to help this help the town, because they're not going to do it on septic systems. That's probably the biggest problem, getting industry in here. Because I'd like to see a gas station in here. You know, other little strip mall, right? But oh, and if money was no object, a turf field for the high school.
Thanks, Andy.
If money was no object, we'd have a new elementary school. The one that we got now is a little bit of a sick school, apparently, with the asbestos and whatever, and they've had to close off portions. When Kevin and I went here, there was 8 classrooms, one for each grade. And we ate our lunch, we went underneath the stairs to the cafeteria and got it. But we need a new elementary school. Money was no object, we'd do that, and then we'd spend a little money to keep the people here that do the work in the school and make them happy enough to want to spend their whole careers working for this town. Thank you.
It's an odd phrase, if money was no option. You don't hear that too many in taxes. To be honestly, that's a tough one, okay? There's so many variables to that one. As Bobby mentioned, I went to school there. And the schools are always going to have an issue. Your roads are always going to have an issue because they always got to be fixed. Money, no matter what, is going to be an option. It's not going to be a non-option. It's not practical. We're a capitalist society. That's all I can say. Great question, no answer. I wish the best way.
It just gets to the core of what you really, really, really want, is
Yeah.
what the question is really for.
Yeah, I want a balance between both. That's the whole thing. Town and school, you got to have a balance. Okay.
Carrie?
Well, if money were no object, I would address the needs of the police station. I walked through there last week. They have some needs, and so I would do phase 2 of the fire safety complex. If money were no object, I'd look at ways to attract business. What infrastructure do we need? Is it just sewer? Would natural gas lines? Would new highways, new roads? That bridge that they've been talking about for over 100 years. If money were no object, how could we attract businesses? And third, if money were no object, the new school. One of my big complaints or concerns is that's a big tax hit. And so if we could do it in a way that was fiscally responsible, I'd be open to it, but only if money were no object.
Anybody else? No? You have a second question, sir.
Yeah, so the second question I had was for the school board, and So I think Kevin Lynch mentioned something about egos and so on, and it kind of made me think that how are each of you able to separate your personal biases and ego to do what's right?
I think that works for everybody.
Yeah. I actually wish
No
I...
one in particular, though.
Yeah, I'd actually like to answer the last question. That was the easy one.
Yeah.
I would just give all the taxpayers all your tax money back, and you didn't get no taxes. So, I'm sorry, if you could repeat the question.
Uh-oh.
I just lost my...
How do you separate your personal bias from egos? To do what's right. There you go.
Well, when I decided to run for school board, I knew I was running for school board for the 1,300 children that attend our schools, and it's to better the town. The better the schools we have, the better the town is. 4 children, 1 who's already gone through the school system, and 3 remaining. So I have a vested interest, obviously because I have children in all 3 schools. But when I make a decision, when I talk through a process, it's for 1,300 children, it's not for 3, because it's to benefit everyone who goes to school here.
Christina Harrison. I just want to echo what Brian said. That's exactly why we do what we do. It's all about the students. So if I'm struggling with, is this the right thing to do? This person told me this, but I'm not sure if I should believe them, and this person gave me this input, and what's the right thing to do? It's always got to be about the kids. So if I just ask myself, do all of the kids benefit from this, then the answer is clear to me.
I think that no matter what you do, you're going to have conflicts in personality. You're going to have issues that you have to resolve, but it's reminding yourself, what are we all there for? We're all there for a common goal. We all have the same, we all want to achieve the same thing, and that's providing the best education for our students. We may not agree on how we're going to get there or what that even looks like, but if we can all focus on the common goal and the belief that even though I may disagree with a person, that person still has good intentions. So working together and setting that aside, working towards what is in the best interest of the people in the building. And as a manager, I have a track record of having done that. I've worked with some pretty fiery, big personalities in the past. And we've all worked towards the common goal. That's what it's there for. And so it's not about me. It's not about the other people on the board. It's what is our goal and how are we going to work together to get there. Personality shouldn't matter. I don't need credit. I just want to get it done. Thanks.
Any more takers for that question? Ma'am.
Hi, Leah Lynch, Kevin Lynch's daughter-in-law.
There's a biased question here. Go ahead.
Well, I don't live in Litchfield, but I've been in the Lynch family for 10 years. And kind of what I'm hearing from a few of you is that you're hoping that this town expands and gets bigger, hoping that it'll bring more revenue in. Like I said, I don't live here. At some point, I would love to. I think this town is beautiful, and my husband is so lucky to have grown up here. I would like to see it stay small. Is there anybody else who shares that perspective? And also, do you think it's possible? And if it is possible, how do you think you could achieve it?
It's a good question.
I personally would love to see it stay small, exactly like it is. This town has been in existence for how long, Kevin?
Mom.
285 years.
All right, so 1734 and survived with the business that it has here, and I think it'll continue to survive with the business that exists here. I love this town. I love everything about this town. You want the big city, you can go to the big cities. But this is rural America right here, and it's fantastic to have neighbors that you can talk to, neighbors that you see down the street and you can wave to, and basically know everybody in town. So hopefully, myself personally, I'd love to see it stay exactly like it is.
Anybody else?
Market, we actually agree. I moved to this town specifically because it is a small town. You know, the engineer and us, we had a map and highlighters, and we drove around and said, like this area, don't like this area, green, blue, pink, can be considered, not considered. And then we drove up 3A, and we saw the cornfields right in season, and we're both from the country. My husband and I both grew up in small towns. And we said, you know what? We're moving to Litchfield. We're going to find a house in Litchfield. And it has been a small town community, and I love it. I grew up in a small town. I didn't like it then because my dad knew everybody, and I couldn't get away with anything. And as a parent, I love it, so that my kids can't get away with anything, and I know everything. But it has to stay that way. And one of the things that is happening, though, is there is development going on. We've seen houses getting put in. There is going to be growth in town, but we need to find a way to include those new houses and those new people, and still find a way to keep the town affordable and maintain the small town charm. Because growth is going to happen, but how can we control it in a way that keeps stays in character with this town?
Anybody? Anybody?
Robert Leary. When I was a kid, there was about maybe 800 people in the town. It has grown exponentially over the years. The town was also littered with a bunch of little businesses in the town. We had gas stations everywhere, from Skipper Jerry's. There was one at the bottom of Page Road before I was born, in the house where we grew up in. The Kendalls had a store. There was lots of business in town, okay? Those businesses died out. Now we have, everyone wants to keep the farms, and the farms are beautiful, don't get me wrong. I grew up working on farms. Dave Campbell was the chief of police. We worked on his farm. The McQuestons are getting a little bit older. Don Wilson's getting a little bit older. What's going to happen to those areas when they're no longer able to farm? The town's going to continue to grow. It's just, can we make business attractive in this town and do it the right way? That's the key, is to try and do it the right way. Don't eat up all the pretty land that's out there and whatnot. But the town's going to continue to grow, and we're not done building out yet. And until we put a moratorium on building, which I'm against, because I think the property owners should be able to do whatever they want because they pay the taxes. But how to do it and keep the town, its rural attractiveness, is going to be a big challenge for the future. Thank you.
Any other takers? I have one last question here. This is for the school board. Litchfield has a history of difficulty in passing funding for special education. How would you educate the citizenry on the need to support all of our students?
Christina Harrison. I'm guessing that's referring to the special ed coordinator position that was on the ballot twice that was voted down. I think we forget that those of us who don't have children with special needs, who require special services, I think sometimes we forget that it's not, those kids over there need this much more money. It affects all of our students. So when students aren't getting what they need, it affects every student in that classroom, as any teacher or any professional in our school buildings can attest to. When we give kids what they need to be ready to learn, everybody benefits. Services are costly, and we are legally required to provide them. So I think rather than viewing special ed as a separate entity, the more we can consider it part, it's part of our budget, it's part of our district. These kids aren't separate from our kids. They're students, and they have every right to receive what they need to be able to learn. So I think getting that word out there, and I'm happy to work at that and talk to people as long as it takes. But I think if this is referring to that position, we have heard the voters who have said no, they don't want another administrator, and we're looking into ways of making sure students get what they need without adding another administrator by reorganizing and doing things internally. So I hope that answered the question.
Yeah. Brian, no? Okay, so we're at the end. Are there any other questions that you'd like to ask your peer candidates tonight? Anybody? Any question that hasn't been asked that you'd like to float out there? Go ahead.
I don't have a question. Brian Burke. I just want to say that myself and the other candidates who hold office right now, if there are any other questions that haven't been asked,
Yeah.
and you need to ask, you can reach any one of us. I mean, our addresses are right there on the website. It's first initial, last name, bburke@litchfieldschoolddistrict.com, C. Harrison at litchfieldschoolddistrict.com, and same thing with John and with the budget committee who are members. But, I mean, we again, look for feedback, look for questions. And if you do have any that you didn't ask or didn't want to ask in a public setting like this, please do so. And we'd be more than happy to reach out and answer your questions. Thank you.
Any final takers at the microphone?
I just wanted to say thank you, you guys, for everybody showed up. So I thought that was kind of fantastic. So I just want to say thank you.
Okay. So thank you all for coming this evening. We'll have a closing by Natalie in a minute. I urge you all to visit the polls at Campbell High School at 7 a.m. on March 12th. And if you want to say a few words.
Just to echo Betty, thank you to all the candidates for showing up. That was wonderful. We were hoping for at least 2 or 3 of you, so the fact that everybody came just shows how much our town is involved. So thank you for that. Thank you to John for accepting to be the moderator, because Lord knows I don't know what we would have done without him. And thank you, the public, the town people, for showing up. Our town, we've got a lot to learn, and everybody wants, we got to go vote, and the way to vote is to know who our candidates are and know what the issues are, so this is a good way to do so. We're part of the CSCC, and if you have any questions about it, we all have our little name tags on. Please, afterwards, there's still some refreshments left. Come and chit-chat, meet and greet. This would be a time if you want to have maybe a bit more of a personal conversation with the candidates. I'm keeping you for another 20 or so minutes. But now's the time. And again, thank you, everyone, and we appreciate you coming in. Thank you.
Carrie is elected.